There have been many books written and countless stories told about the great men of motor racing and the many different venues of speed where they have raced and won. The complete story of that undeniable bridge between the automobile and the automobile race may never fully be told, only because of its utter vastness. For here is a sport that has endured for close to a century, and the men and machines that have become the subjects of fact and folklore, both the heroes and the unheralded, number into the many thousands. But if the formidable task of recounting motor racing's history is ever fully realized, it is certain that the story of this man will figure prominently into it. This is Dan Gurney, truly one of auto racing's greatest drivers. Today, he is the singular driving force behind All-American Racers in Santa Ana, California, a full-time racing operation that campaigns state-of-the-art GT prototype sports cars in association with Toyota. We were fortunate to be able to sit down with this constantly moving executive recently to talk about his life, past and present, which, as you might expect, has always centered around the car.
Probably 1938, 39, it's a long time ago. And I was very young. I was born in 31. So I heard, among other things, I heard sounds, I heard the smells of what the lubricants they used, castor oil in those days and things like that. It was music to me. And I think that my whole involvement with automobiles has been as much a passion as anything.
During his college years, Dan's family moved from Long Island, where he was born, to California. And after a stint in the military, Dan was back in California competing in amateur sports car races sanctioned by the California Sports Car Club. But his professional racing career was a lot closer than even he thought. And his rise to international prominence was as fast as many of the cars he would soon be winning in.
There was a drought within which I thought I'd never make the breakthrough to driving for other people, but eventually, over a period of about 2 years, it happened. And the next thing you know, in very few races later, I was driving a Formula One race for Ferrari in Europe. So all told, probably 22 races altogether between starting and sitting in the seat of a Formula One car.
In the decade of the 60s, auto racing was in what many have called its golden era. Horsepower was now big business, and winning a race was considered by many the best way to get people into automobile showrooms. Dan Gurney's remarkable versatility and staggering talent launched him into the auto racing spotlight in race cars of all types. Few men in history have competed in as many different styles of race cars as Dan Gurney did, and even fewer have done so and won. And even the way in which he won some of those races sets Dan Gurney apart. For instance, the 1962 Daytona Continental, the first time he had ever competed in a 3-hour race, driving a Lotus 19 for the Arciero team.
Unfortunately, the engine let go, actually put a rod right through the side of the block, and the race wasn't over yet. So I thought, well, what do I do now? And I was within coasting distance of the finish line, and I decided, well, you know, I don't think it's very long to the end of the race. I pulled up to the finish line, which was up on a banking, and decided I'd stop before crossing the line. Sort of waited there, and I'm looking up at, you know, the starter's flag out over, and he's up there, and I see him looking at my watch, and it was about a little over a minute to go. Finally, he got his watch, and the guy tapped him on the shoulder, and he waved the checkered flag, and I just turned left and coasted down across the banking and still ended up winning the race.
Dan Gurney's star continued to rise in the ensuing years. In fact, in 1964, Car and Driver magazine organized a somewhat whimsical Dan Gurney for President campaign, but Dan graciously declined to pursue it. By 1967, America was flexing its automotive muscle in the world of international GT racing. The Ford GT had become a force to be reckoned with by virtue of its 1-2-3 finish at Le Mans in 1966. The following year, 36-year-old Dan Gurney, who had raced in the Indianapolis 500 12 days earlier, found himself at Le Mans, about to team up with 3 other racing greats. Mario Andretti, the winner of that year's 12 Hours of Sebring. A.J. Foyt, who by then had won the Indianapolis 500 3 times. And Bruce McLaren, the winner of the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans, all driving the new Ford GT Mark IV. It was a race that still provides great pleasure to Dan Gurney whenever he speaks of it.
My previous experience, where I had been there 6 times and had almost always been beaten by another older fellow, Briggs Cunningham, who wasn't really well known as a race driver, but knew how to approach that race. I took a lot of hints from Briggs and applied that to my effort there in '67 and convinced AJ that our philosophy should be, it's not a race, it's an endurance contest. Well, we did, regardless of what Ford said to us, and next thing you know, we had a tremendous lead, and we won the race and set new records and won the index of performance, which had to do with mileage as well. I mean, we just smoked the dickens out of everybody, and it was a great day.
Dan Gurney would go on to win many more races in his career, including his outstanding victory at the Belgian Grand Prix in 1967, driving a car of his own design, powered by an engine of his own design. After retiring from driving about 20 years ago, his Gurney Eagle race cars enjoyed incredible popularity and success. In fact, in 1973, 21 of the 33 fastest qualifiers at the Indy 500 were Gurney Eagles. There are few drivers who have enjoyed even a fraction of the racing success that has marked Dan Gurney's career. As a driver, he was fast, defiant, and disarmingly cool all at the same time. Qualities that would come to serve him well, confronting the challenges he faces today. This is the world of the Camel GT Series, a string of GT prototype races that feature high-tech, ultra-sophisticated race cars, which extend the envelopes of performance and endurance whenever they engage in battle. Since 1982, Dan Gurney is the man on whom Toyota has placed its championship hopes. Gurney's All-American Racers organization builds and campaigns the Toyota GTP race cars at their shop in Santa Ana, California, under the watchful eye of a man who knows what it takes to succeed on this level.
What does it take to be successful? Very simply, you have to win races. Now, winning races, that's tough. In the end, the lifeblood of racing ends up being, in addition to all of the passion and the things that the humans put into it, is money. And you have to have a certain minimum amount of money or an unheard of amount of luck in order to succeed.
And as Dan Gurney proved throughout his career, you need driving talent. One of Dan's most promising drivers is Juan Fangio II, nephew of 5-time world driving champion Juan Manuel Fangio from Argentina, one of Dan Gurney's idols. Gurney and young Fangio have a special relationship, and Dan clearly values it.
Juan is excruciatingly honest. He is very thorough in what he puts into his driving. He never sort of puts on a marketing display for himself. He has enough confidence in himself, so he hardly ever, other than the fact that he does it with his foot and with his skill, he never says he wants to know how well am I doing, when he knows full well how well he's doing. He has very much confidence, and he follows directions terrifically, and he's becoming a very, very accomplished driver. And we just feel very fortunate that he races for us.
His career has spanned nearly 5 decades, and it's a career that is draped with the banner of excellence. In an age when self-serving egotism and boastful excess have glutted most professional sports, Dan Gurney's shy, unpretentious manner and warm, congenial smile do seem a bit out of place. But let history show that beneath his boyish simplicity, there beats the heart of a champion, and that unflickering passion for finishing first.
Probably I'd like people to remember Dan Gurney as a racing fan himself.